it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it.
And it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it. And it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Head to Head with Brian Parker. I am he.
Yeah.
And we are joined today by our wonderful panel. Here we have Ms. Kim Morrow. How you doing, Kim?
I'm doing great. Got my other pair of sneakers and my pearls on. 100
All right.
days.
Look
Keeping
at
them
you.
accountable.
She ready to go. Mr. Brad Carlton, how you doing, sir?
Yes, sir. I'm doing fantastic. Always a pleasure to be with you, Mr. Brian.
All right. Glad to have you. Glad to have you. And last, but certainly not least, Jermaine Parker. How are you?
I was doing good till you had that long pause, man. It was uncomfortable. I didn't know if you was actually going to introduce me or not.
Well, you know, I'm a thespian, so I was just trying to make it a little dramatic to bring you in, you know.
Okay.
Keep the crowd kind of anticipation. We know you got a large female following out there, so I wanted to kind of milk it a little bit. Only said that just in case your wife is lurking around in some bushes somewhere. So anyway, hope everybody had a great.
I got the wide-angle lens on today, so you can actually see back into the kitchen and stuff. So now she ain't out there today.
Oh, okay, is that where she normally is in the kitchen?
No.
Oh, okay. You know, I'm not sexist at all. I'm just sexist.
Nah, she cook in the bedroom, bro.
Less steps, I assume. Oh, boy. Yes, we had the same parents. So, and that was obvious. Anyway, I hope y'all had a fantastic week and everything. And yeah, man, we've had some crazy times and everything, but right now what we got going on in the country is we're 2 weeks into Uncle Joe and Kamala taking over at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. We'll talk about that in a second. We also have the craziness going on the Hill right now, where Congress is currently debating over if they think we need more stimulus money or emergency money, as some of them are calling it, survival checks. It's kind of funny just to kind of see it's funny, but it's not unexpected to see a lot of the hypocrisy that's really, really going on. We knew it would, you know, when Donald Trump was in office and Republicans were supposed to be the party of conservatism and minimum government, low spending, trying to get rid of the deficit and all that kind of stuff. All that kind of seemed to go out of the window when they ended up passing that $1 trillion tax cut that benefited mostly top tier companies, high income earning people. A lot of those were permanent, and then the ones that we got were more of the temporary. And they had no problem at all, because then they justified it by saying, well, if we give these corporations all this money, then they will break off a little bit of it to you guys, and you'll have higher wages and bonuses and things like that. And the things that we kept saying to them was, no, what they're going to do is buy back a lot of their stocks and stuff like that, and not really share it with anybody else. And lo and behold, when they got that money, that's exactly what they did. Some of them did do one-time bonuses to their staff and everything, but to be clear, they came out a lot better than that. They also passed it through a process that no one's ever heard of called reconciliation.
Right.
Now, reconciliation is a process by which Congress can pass certain spending bills related to the budget with a simple majority, 51 votes, as opposed to how most things have to pass through a 60 vote threshold. So if you're in the major party, but you don't have 60 in your party, then that means that you're going to have to use a term called bipartisanship to be
Right.
able to get most things passed, which is why most things do not pass, because it's so divided. So unless you have 60 senators in your party, and even then doesn't always guarantee that things are going to pass, because now that senator in your party now has a whole lot of leverage to say, wait. I need some things to happen. And we're having that problem right now in the Democratic Party, which I unfortunately was right about, that we were going to start having some people want to grandstand, because it's a big tent. And just because they got a D beside their name, everybody isn't conservative, everybody isn't progressive, everybody isn't moderate. So you got some people in different factions that don't want certain things to happen. And one of those things is ending the filibuster. The filibuster can make it where senators can basically protest your bill and it will never see the light of day. And they're trying to, and some people are wanting Chuck Schumer and Democrats to get rid of the filibuster so that things can simply be passed with a majority. Now, because the Senate is divided 50-50, it can still pass bills with a majority if all 48 Democratic senators and the 2 independents that caucus with the Democrats stay together, and then Kamala Harris, chucks and all, comes in and votes as a tiebreaker.
Right.
And now, knowing that it still takes that, you will have senators like a Joe Manchin, like a Kyrsten Sinema in Arizona saying, well, we don't want to do away with the filibuster because we still think that there needs to be bipartisan support. And if anybody knows, Joe Biden came up with the $1.9 trillion COVID bill that has a lot of different things in it. Some of it is directly COVID related, and some of it, I guess, but what they're really trying to do is come up with a huge bill, because they pretty much know this simple fact. If you have been elected to the office and you have the majority and you don't do anything with it, and you're the party in power, when the midterms come up in 2 years, you normally get your tails kicked and you lose a whole bunch of seats.
Exactly.
So they understand that they got about 2 years, that whatever it is that they're going to do it now. You do not have 4 years. The president has 4 years to be in office. If you're in Congress, you got 2 years. And Mitch McConnell has already shown you that he wasted 1 month by dragging his feet to come up with a resolution for the Senate to operate, meaning that Lindsey Graham 2 days ago was still chairman of the Judiciary Committee. Now, they finally came up to an agreement yesterday, so now he is no longer the chairman. Dick Durbin has taken over the chair, but that should have happened relatively quickly once Joe Biden took office. But Mitch McConnell slow dragged it. So still being in the minority, they're able to slow drag things. So a lot of people are saying, hey, y'all, I know Joe Biden ran on this whole unity kumbaya thing, but when Joe was in the Senate, you didn't have people sitting there talking about Democrats drinking babies' blood and wanting to put bullets in Nancy Pelosi's heads and stuff like that. So the party that Joe knew, they're not there. They're not there right now.
Exactly.
So we may not be able to do a whole bunch of this unity stuff you're talking about, because the only goal that these people have is to act like Trump is still there. So if you're going to do something, go ahead and do it. Do it big. The Republicans countered the $1.9 trillion package. 10 of them showed up at the White House saying, well, let's do a third of that. Let's do $618 billion.
Right.
And we're not going to include unemployment in that. We're not going to include, we're going to include stimulus checks, but we're only going to do 1,000 instead of 1,400. And we're not going to do it at a $75,000 threshold. We're going to do it at a $50,000 threshold. So they just kept nipping away certain pieces of it, and it's pretty much a no-starter.
Well, that's just so that they can have and exercise their power and to show their constituents. But what they're doing is you're hurting your own constituents, because all of their constituents are not rich.
I'm not,
You know,
well,
when you do the rich, the wealthy, and the well-supported, that's not true for a lot of their constituents. And they also said, well, it's just a waste of the taxpayers' money. Well, those people are taxpayers and have been taxpayers. So what do you mean? It's a waste. The rich is not paying taxes. The wealthy is not paying taxes. So
I
what
agree.
do you mean?
Well, some people would say their $180,000 a year salaries is a waste of taxpayer money. But
Well,
we see no
you gotta
problem with that.
understand. You understand this key point is that when you talk about Republicans and the people that they represent, and again, I'm your history major for you. When you look back at it, they depend on poor white people because poor white people, as long as they have status over black people, they don't care. They'll lose money and benefits and stuff like that. If you look right now, I think 9 of the top the poorest states that we have, 9 out of 10 of them are Republican. There's only one Democrat state in there, and so
That's correct.
these aren't really well-run states and stuff. So we talk about financial benefits and stuff. They're used to, and that's the funny thing is that these are the same people that vote against Medicaid and Medicare expansion. They vote against unemployment benefits. They vote against. They vote against. They are literally willing to cut off their nose to spite their face, type stuff. And so they are completely supported in that by their representatives. Their representatives are representing them in what they believe. They're like, yeah, it would do me some good. But if I think somebody named Tyrone don't get some, I can do without.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
you know
so
what?
the question is to all these conservative Christian people, where's the love with your conservative Christianity? Where's the love? You're so worried about Tyrone and Tamika and all of them.
Well,
But
I mean,
what Bible are you reading and where's the love?
But that's the sham, right? I mean, this is a country that was founded on enslaving another people. You know, so anytime somebody stands up and talks about this country and the Christian background stuff, I go, nah, I don't think so.
Exactly.
You know, you can't sit there and tell me that you follow the year and you ain't never seen your kids. You can't have,
There you go.
You can't say one thing and do something else, and then I'm just going to sit there and go with it and believe that stuff. So I don't believe that. You
Exactly.
should believe what they do, not what they say. They say
Exactly my point in calling everybody else hypocrites and throwing these stones at everyone else. But okay, let's take a good look at yourself.
I was talking to a neighbor this week. We were digging out of a big snowstorm. We got hit. We got 18, 19 inches of snow. It was bad. So I'm out there and my neighbor's helping me dig, and I'm very thankful that he was helping me dig out the driveway because it was blocked in. And, you know, we're talking about, oh, we're in crazy times and, you know, we got to see ourselves through. And he says, oh, you know, Wall Street is going to be a crash. Wall Street's going to crash. The debt is going up and up and up. It's just crazy. And I said, here we go again. As soon as a Democrat gets in office,
right,
you want to talk about the debt. You never want to talk about the debt when the Republican from Reagan on is exploding the debt. President after president is exploding the debt, getting us into these wars, these never-ending wars.
Right.
Tax cuts for the very wealthy, you know, lowering the income that we're able to get from, you know, those who are more fortunate. So here it is again, the Republicans just being as hypocritical as they always have been.
Right.
And rules only apply to us. They never apply to them. You know, I do, you know, watch Fox News to hear what the other side is thinking and saying. And they made a comment about Chuck Schumer and something he had said and how rude he was. And I said, you got to be kidding me. I've heard you say anything about somebody being rude for the last 4 years.
Right.
And now here you are. You got some nerve.
You know, it's a whole lot of amnesia that's going to be going on, Brad, where people are going to try to reinvent themselves and convince you that what you saw the last 4 years you did not see. Right. That was Earth 2, and now you're on Earth 1 again. And they're going to try to reframe it. And it's funny because Joe Biden talked about bipartisanship. all bipartisanship really means is that two parties working together. It does not, but the way that Republicans define it is when we're in power, we can ram through any piece of legislation through that we want, even when we say that we're not going to appoint a Supreme Court justice because we don't believe in doing that in an election year. When we're in power, that doesn't matter. We'll do it anyway. But what that means is, but when you're in power, bipartisanship means that you can't do anything alone. And if we don't agree with it, then you shouldn't do it, because then that's not unity and healing and bipartisanship.
Right. Right. Well, two things. One, you need to take the blindfold off of Lady Justice and quit telling those lies. Justice is only blind when it comes and hit close to home. And another one, people think that truth, you have to pay for the truth. No, you don't. Truth is like it's always been. It's free then, it is free now, and it will forever be free. What is costing everyone, including this country and the world, is the lies, the perpetual lies that have been told and still being told. And so now is, well, I really didn't mean that. Well, that's not, people just got a big misunderstanding. Well, you're caught on tape now, you throw the rock, now you want to hide your hand, and then you run and you cry foul, all of that. So come on, when it's everybody else but you, the double standards is going to stop, because now the thing is people are making everyone more accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, it's like you said, I think, what's the old saying that a lie will be around the world twice before the truth gets out of bed and ties the shoes?
Right, exactly.
But the thing, the correlation for that and this current political situation is, it's historical. This is the way, I think Brad you just brought it up, talking about the budgets and stuff. And historically, when you talk about Republicans, they always campaign on this fiscal responsibility and stuff. But they explode the national budget, and it's always under Democratic leadership where it comes back down. It's tailed down because basically when they're in power, they want to spend on what they want to spend, and when the Democrats get in power, they cry and whine and stuff, and that's when they start reining stuff back in because they don't want them spending on Democratic issues. And so this whole idea about America, the thing that I guess I'm kind of curious about is that it's 2021. I never really thought that we could be to the point where we're like Star Trek, where I'm sitting there talking to people from across the country on my computer and stuff. And so there's technology out there, and there's a lot of information out there. And how long did these lies get to stay out there and people believe these lies and stuff? I mean, how many times can you tell people, oh, we're for family values and stuff. Oh, we're law and order and stuff. We're all these things, and then when things happen, like, I don't know, a Capitol police officer's killed because he was in the way, because he was on the wrong side doing his job and stuff. Well, we're not really for that law and order and stuff. Or when people are trying to enforce these mask laws and stuff, and people are talking about the tyranny of a mask and stuff, but we don't like law enforcement then. We don't like to spend it now, but we liked it when we were giving cuts to millionaires and stuff. At what point do ordinary people look at this and go, I think that cat's lying? I don't being all truthful, and they're just disingenuous about their positions. Like, how long does that keep going on? Because that's the question for me. Like, you can hear this QAnon nonsense, and I'm sure you'll get into our house QAnon nut. But when you got somebody out there talking about space lasers, starting wildfires and stuff like that, like, at what point do you
from Jews?
Well, the sad part is that if it was just a space laser, I don't think they'd be so upset, and it's rightfully upset because it was racist and stuff. But that's crazy as hell, and not just on its own merit, right? It didn't need. Right. I mean, this is the first time. This is the first time somebody, a white person, willfully put some seasoning on something when she put the Jews on it. That was seasoning on it, but it was a full meal by itself with space laser.
That's the space laser part, right.
Yeah. It didn't need no flavor.
Maybe Marjorie saw the laser. Maybe the Hebrew on the laser. We don't know. We have to give her the reasonable doubt, right? Maybe she saw Hebrew and a yarmulke all on this laser, and shot down and started a fire. Like, where do we go? Where do we go with this? How do we?
Yeah, well, and that's why I think some people just willfully like to be lied to. I think because, like Jermaine is saying, you can't really stop somebody from lying to you, but you can call bullcrap and say, wait, come on, man.
Exactly.
That don't even make no sense. But because you are so willing to want to believe it so bad.
Well, it's ingrained in America. I believe the willingness to be lied to is ingrained in America. That was the whole thing when you look at the school system stuff coming through the 1900s and stuff. It was all about revisionist history, about everything from Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Cowboys and Indians.
Yep. Slaves.
Slaves were portrayed as happy and dancing and stuff like that. Everything was rewritten and stuff because America is a patient that does not want to deal with its own mental health. It doesn't want to say, I did those things, because if I did those things, then how can I be as judgmental? Like, right now we're still talking about the farmers over in India and their protests and stuff. We're talking about other political things going around the world and stuff.
Right.
Judgment of people.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you guys shouldn't be doing that. You should be holding fair elections.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're literally telling Russia that you need to release those people that you have improperly jailed for protesting. And I'm sitting there going, who the hell are we?
Again, saying, not as I do. Yeah. Do as I say, not as I do.
And that's why, if you've ever had that one friend that always wants to correct you and wants to help other people, I think part of that is because if they took time to sit down and try to help themselves, they'd have to deal with a lot more stuff. It's easier to project on the other people.
Correct.
And then take care of your own stuff.
Exactly.
It's easier to go to Russia and say, hey, you should be talking, or anywhere else and say, you should be doing protesters like that, knowing that we do protesters worse. It's easier to say, hey, these are human rights violations, knowing that we violate the civil rights of brown and black people every day in this country.
And we're still trying to put 600 kids back with their parents. How the hell do we ever talk about any kind of violations like that when we literally had laws on the books that allow children to be taken away from their parents just because they say como estas?
Because as the boys at work would say, America.
Yeah, but we talk about China. We talk about North Korea. We talk about all these authoritarian places where they have human rights violations, and those things are terrible. But we're sitting there doing some crazy stuff too.
America's always done it. No one seems to want to have that conversation with the American.
They don't. Because they lie to them and say, no, we're not like them. We're not like them. They preach this American exceptionalism, like, it's that shiny city on the hill. You hear that mess? That's a bunch of crap. That whole Lady Liberty thing. Give me your tire. Give me your. That's a bunch of crap.
That depends on where they're coming from. See, give me your tire, your huddle masses, all that. It depends on what border.
You're right. Norway, you're good.
Where they're coming from and who they are. Why? Because it's their ancestors.
Correct.
Right? It's their ancestors.
I think America and the religion of Christianity is a great religion for America, because Christianity on the surface, when you look at it, is awesome. The people who practice Christianity are awesome. Practice are awful. I'm sorry for all the Christian friends.
We got you.
And so America on the surface and stuff, and I think that's the reason that we still we love the country so much. And as much as we talk about this stuff, don't nobody love America like black people, because we have been done so wrong, and to still have any kind of semblance of nationalism, it speaks to the great love that we have for this country and stuff. But we understand, just like anything else in our life, we're allowed to question those things and go, hey, I love this country so much, James Baldwin, that I think it's my job and my responsibility to question her when she doesn't live up to the things that she says that she's going to do.
Right.
Exactly.
And I see, and Jermaine, to your point with that, because I was on a podcast last year arguing with a bunch of conservatives that same point, and their thing to me was almost like, well, this is the best country in the world. Where else would you be? And I'm like, hey, it doesn't matter if that's true or not. What matters, I still should be able to say, just because it's better to me, it can be even better. You know, you always want to improve and do better. Just because I point out something that's not good doesn't mean that everything is bad. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but you do identify the fact that the water needs changing.
Look, I love North Carolina, and North Carolina is not the best state. There's some people who believe it's the best state. I mean, it's a nice state. Don't get me wrong. We get four seasons, and okay, there's the Panthers, but we got LaMelo Ball. See, Melo.
It was the best state when I was living there, but now.
Well, that's probably why it's not anymore.
Yeah, that's what happened.
And as somebody who's been around the world and stuff, this is not the best country. It's not. This is this is a third world country with a Gucci belt.
Excuse me, y'all. Let me give you his
not
address.
the best country out there, and people who make that based solely on emotion, not on any kind of measure. We
right.
We don't have the best education, not anymore. We don't have. I mean, there are a lot of metrics out there where America is just behind. And because
we as Black African
millionaires and billionaires and lottery winners.
Exactly. But look what we have done as Black African Americans, Harriet Tubman and all of those. We have always had to learn to make the best of what was given to us, even though it was the leftovers, even though we was helping them raise their children and take care of their children.
Shout out to Oxtails.
Yes. So that's what we still doing. And the reason why we say we love this country is that because we have learned to survive in this country, because this is what we have. And so learning to make the best of it and to still be where we are and where we have gotten to, because they're saying, oh, how did they get that? What? They're on that level? They're my neighbor? They're working in right beside me in my cubicle? Oh, they are advancing over me. Oh, they're getting better educated than me. How is that? Well, it is because, one, you've been lied to. And unfortunately, you didn't have anyone to love you enough to tell you the truth. Well, I love you enough to tell you the truth. Stop believing those lies. It is reaping time, America. We are all human. It is reaping time. And if you want to see a better future, then be careful what you sow, because you're going to reap what you sow.
Amen.
That's just me with my pearls on.
All right, Pearls. Hey, also, the other thing that I wanted to circle back to really quick to answer the other question is why do these constituents take it? And Jermaine is right. They just simply they're like sheep and they just follow. They don't really question it. And they're in poor states or whatever. The thing to remember about politicians, and I mean this for Democrats, Republicans, independent, congressmen, and senators, their main goal is to make their donors happy.
Yeah.
Their donors do not want folks to make more money.
Right.
Because they want you to stay dependent on the corporations and the things that they hand out to you. They don't want the government to hand it to you. They want the corporations to hand it to you when they're ready to hand it to you. So if the donors, whether it's the Chamber of Commerce, whether it's big companies, they don't want these, part of the 1.9 trillion involves raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. I can't even believe that we're still having this conversation where I think the federal minimum wage was last raised in 2009. To $7.25. Joe Manchin from West Virginia, a Democrat, I'm gonna start calling him a dino, basically said, well, that might work in some states, but my state, that's too much. He said his state, $11 an hour makes sense. Now he's saying there's other states, like in New York, it's $15 an hour.
We'll take it $4. New York will take it.
You know, here's the stupid part, Brad. I was sitting there thinking about that, listening to this big dummy, in the words of Fred G. Sanford. If $11 is what your people need, since you seem to know what they need, if you gave them 15, then they would put that money back into the economy. So it would help West Virginia's economy. These folks ain't going to save that extra $4 an hour. They're going to spend it. That puts the money back into the economy. Well, where are they spending it? At companies. Oh, you mean these corporations you want to give the tax? See, all we're basically doing is saying instead of trickle down, we trickle in up. We put money in the hands of people that make buying and purchasing decisions.
It's not everyone in West Virginia. It's people who work for the federal government, and it's people who are in federal contracts. You know what I mean? We're not people like Walmart in West Virginia are not suddenly going to be making $15 an hour.
Right.
So just understand that clear difference about what Biden is trying to do. I mean, it's trying to keep up with the rate of inflation, and we've been behind for so long that it takes a giant step like this.
Yeah, they talk about, well, if you raise them, and they've always used this excuse. If you raise the minimum wage, then employers are going to cut back on the amount of people they hire. And instead of having X amount of full-time positions, then people are going to be down to part-time positions, which means that they won't have benefits because most places that hire you part-time do not cover benefits and things like that. That's all the boogeyman. That's a scare tactic. They do that. A lot of these corporations, even in the time of COVID, still took away heavy hauls as far as revenue. These CEOs sit there and they retire and they get these million and billion dollar golden parachutes. Don't tell me Jeff Bezos said, I'm going to step down. Jeff Bezos ain't losing no money. He divorced his wife. She making bank and he's still making bank.
Right.
They try to tell you that, and Bezos, until Bernie Sanders basically shamed him into paying people $15 an hour, he wasn't doing it. But then he started paying them $15 an hour. Did Jeff Bezos go bankrupt like Donald Trump had 6 times? No.
Actually, Jeff Bezos, I just read this thing and it's crazy because Amazon, because of the way the epidemic and stuff, Amazon has made so much more money based on the epidemic. They were like, actually paid every Amazon employee $100,000 bonus, and he would be just as rich as he was before the pandemic started.
Wow.
So when you talk about this whole thing about now I hadn't done the math and stuff, but I have done the math on $15 an hour, and it's like $31,000 a year.
Right.
You sit there and you look at people and you go, I don't want somebody to make $30,000 a year. Like, that's nothing. It's absolutely nothing that we're talking about. And as Brad's talking about, it's not everybody. This is just federal minimum wage. Right. If you want the minimum wage in your state to go up, then you got to start beating on your state reps and stuff for that stuff. Start the beatings with your governor and work your way down. Verbal beatings. I'm not inciting anything. I don't care to be on. It's just amazing that people are in 2021 talking about, I don't want my neighbor to make $31,000 because I think that they might be comfortable. And I think that they might, what are they going to do with all that money?
Right.
Right.
And the thing that kills me, Jermaine, is the people that think that $31,000 is too much for you can't tell you the last time they made $31,000.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But like you said earlier, Jermaine, is that because they're thinking about the Tyrones and the Tamikas. They're not thinking about the Karens and the Mikes. They're thinking about the Tyrones and the Tamikas, because they start making too much. That means you can afford more affordable housing, and you end up in my neighborhood, in my neighbor, and going to school with my children.
But see, here's the contradiction of that, Kim. This is why that is stupid.
Exactly.
If they have more of a livable wage, then they don't have to be as connected to as many social programs that they think that they don't need either, like SNAP and CHIP and all those other programs.
Exactly.
So now if you get them out of the realm of poverty, where now they're making enough, they're paying higher taxes, that's going into stuff. Now they're not having to sit there and get as many subsidies to subsidize daycare and things like that.
Exactly.
But we pay money for those programs. We really do. We pay money for those programs because we understand, or I say we. This is my conspiracy part of the show. We understand that when people are in poverty and they're disenfranchised and stuff, it's just another part of voter suppression and stuff.
Yep.
Because people don't believe that the system works for them and it doesn't benefit them and stuff. They don't participate in those mechanisms that allow for change and stuff. And so if it's worth it for them to keep people in poverty, to keep the foot on the neck, as it were, and keep them out of this higher level of thought. If you ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and so I'm pulling that from way back, right? But Maslow says there's a bottom hierarchy, bottom tier needs that you got to take care of before you can get to self-discovery and all these other things, right? You gotta have food security, you gotta have home security and stuff like that. You have to be safe, and if you make sure that those things are rocky for people, they can't get to any other level.
Right.
And this country is about the pyramid. Whether it's the way that we build our business and stuff, because we have the CEO at top and all the people at the bottom. Again, Bezos making all these billions of dollars and stuff, and he had to be shamed by Bernie Sanders, like you said, and paying his guys a living wage when they were definitely working for it.
Right.
Because I get my stuff 2 days of that.
For real. Prime.
Yeah. Thank you.
If you click the box, you'll get it the next day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Amazon Fresh been bringing me my groceries.
Yeah. And so they deserve that, and the company's making money. It's capitalism. Capitalism is such a crazy thing, because all of us could start a business and stuff, and the way capitalism works is that we go out and we progressively grow our business. So let's say we make $5 million the first year, we make $7 million the second year, we make 10 the third year and stuff. By the fifth year, we're making 15 million a year in profits for our company and stuff. In year 6, everybody thinks that we should be making 17 million, but we look at it and go, well, we've maximized everything that we can maximize. Our machineries, we're running everything the way we can run this stuff. We can't make it. And they go, well, that was a bad year. Well, it wasn't a bad year. We made 15 million again. That's what we should make. But capitalism says that we should be making more. And the only way really to make that more is to deny your people who are your biggest expense their portion of that success. So you don't raise the wages and stuff. You don't extend the benefits. And that's why this whole trickle down thing doesn't work, because capitalism demands that we take care of the company and that we show the people in order to take care of the company.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, like I say, the $15 an hour thing, and I'm glad that they
corporations are people too.
Yeah, thank you, Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
Corporation first.
Yeah.
Make it a corporation first, and we'll make sure that the rest of the people who hold up the corporation are taken.
Well, we talk about, because Jermaine Parker Realty LLC is a person.
Yeah, I don't see
very sensitive about his shit. He's a real person and stuff. But we talk about a corporation that's got 500,000 employees and stuff. It loses its personality and stuff, and it becomes this big machine, right? It grinds through everything, and they still need to be, and they do a great job for our economy and stuff. And it's not that it's not needed; it's that we just have to be more willing to talk about, again, not the lies and stuff about how our stuff works, but being more accurate about what we're doing and how we do it, being transparent in our conversations about wealth and money management in this country.
Right. So then the next question is the capitalism versus the socialism. Because, January 6th, when they stormed the Capitol, it was about socialism. But then you had a man in office who was capitalizing, which he has always done. That's what his family has always been about. Capitalizing as much as he can on the American people and making his connections with Russia. Because you got to remember that the Middle East, and what the Middle East war is about, is how they gave the pipelines access to China and Russia, and not the good old US of A. So when you still talk about capitalism versus socialism, now that's a great conversation. And it depends
well, it's a conversation that needs to also have education, because half of the people talking about communism and socialism and all that kind of stuff benefit from socialism, and not really understanding what socialism really is and how they probably benefit from it on a daily basis.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And they're getting the benefits of those checks too. Don't let them fool you.
Exactly. Or some of them
checks too.
Yeah, some of them go to the doctor and pull out their Medicaid cards.
Right.
I think money is kind of where people kind of draw the line for socialism and stuff, because they're really okay with it for every other thing.
Right.
I saw some memes out there talk about things, you know, people when they complain about socialism, and if today we brought up some of the ideas that we now take for granted socialism, like, I don't know, the fire department. I think people today be like, well, I'm not gonna put my money together so we can have engines. That dude's house burning down, that's his house.
Right.
Educate somebody else's kids, you know. The only thing I think socially that that if you brought up today that people would be on board with would be the police, because they beat niggas. That's something that's just something that everybody can rally behind.
Right.
I think I lost Brian. I'm sorry.
I'm dead. I'm dead. Well, yeah, you know what? That's probably why I keep getting calls from the Fraternal Order of Police every week or so asking me to donate. And I'm not going to repeat what I tell them now, but
hey,
hurry up and get off now.
I'm a supporter of law enforcement and stuff too, because I'm like Chris Rock. I'm afraid of niggas too.
Right.
Just niggas.
Yeah.
They ruthless. But you know, but like say we like, so the Panthers decide they need to do a stadium and stuff. Well, the owner doesn't pay for it.
Right.
No, the taxpayers do.
Taxpayers.
Yeah, and so, you know, the auto companies are about to go under. They don't bail themselves out.
No.
Taxpayers.
Corporate
when we talk
welfare.
about socialism and how we socially come together and support each other and stuff, it's okay till we start talking about direct payments and money and stuff. That's when people get sensitive. As long as you put a little honey in there, a little sugar there, and serve it to them sweet and stuff, if you can bake it up in a nice cake and stuff and say,
hey,
oh,
Jermaine, you are so right.
All our money and stuff.
You're so right. They go to a Tim McGraw concert, yelling and screaming and hooting and hollering, not realizing that socialism built that stadium.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's our stadium. I'm proud of that stadium, bro. You don't own a business near that stadium. The profits from that stadium, the stuff that they say, and they have actually done studies year over year when we talk about stadiums, that form of socialism, when they bring businesses in, they give them tax cuts. Like Amazon was fishing around for all these tax cuts for people to make a city compete for their headquarters and stuff. They found that over years that none of these tax cuts, none of this stuff actually does anything for your economy. Not beneficial. It's probably dead even at best. If you give them $7 million of tax cuts, you might get $7 million back into the community.
Right.
At that point, you start thinking to yourself, well, what else could I have done with that money to benefit my community? I don't know, better roads and infrastructure and stuff. You know.
No, you're absolutely right. And that's the funny thing. So to Kim's point, that would be a great conversation, but people really have to just break down what they think socialism really is, to find out that, hey, you've been benefiting from it more than you probably care to realize.
Exactly.
So like, I think it was Truman, you know, 50, 75 years ago, who said, look, this is not new. So our conversation today about socialism is not new, and they're scared to think of socialism because Social Security, when that was being about in the 30s, they said that was socialism. Labor unions, you know what I mean? Federal insurance on bank. They said, oh, that's socialism. It's gonna.
Yeah.
No, it's not going to ruin the country. It's for all of us. It's just like with the regulations. You know, you have these conversations with folks. Well, Trump got rid of all those regulations, and that's why we're in business. Bro, regulations are in place so our water isn't lime green. Like we need those regulations.
Exactly.
It's all of us.
Yeah.
Because
maybe you don't want to find somebody's cut off finger in your can of beans.
Right. Absolutely. So it's like the pipeline, right? The pipeline that they said, oh, it's going to kill thousands of jobs. No, it's not. You take dirty oil, trying to through the length of this country, through Aquifer. So you let an accident happen there, you're talking about no water for thousands of miles around. I mean,
right.
You know, you got to think of us.
1,200 jobs, Brad. 1,200 jobs.
Right.
That's all we're talking about.
Right.
And not
the
that
thing with the pipeline is that we want to bring through the sacred grounds of the Native American Indians. So you want to bring it through in a way that when it was going to affect people that you don't give a damn about.
Yep. Well, because they clearly haven't taken enough from our Native Americans.
So one quick point just about that is we talked a couple of episodes ago about Christmas movies, and I said mine was I forget.
Die Hard.
No, I think it was A Wonderful Life, wasn't it?
A Wonderful Life. There's a scene in there where there's a run on the bank, right? And everybody goes to the bank and they want their money now. And the first two guys are like, you have $100 in the bank. Well, I need it all now. And the lady comes up and she says, well, you know, for the next week or so, I can get by on, you know, $1,750. And he kisses her because the point is, it's not about me and what I need. It's about us and what's good for all of us. You know what I mean? And that's the point that I'd like to see us get to. What's good for all of us. And I think we've got to have serious, hard conversations in this country that are going to make all of us uncomfortable, including Black folk. We've got to be made uncomfortable too, because there's things about us that I'd like to change.
I think once people understand that what's good for the community is good for you individually. Right. When everybody shares it, when everybody, you know, so what's the number one driver of crime is poverty. And so if we can spread the wealth, if we're not worried about where our next meal is coming from, if our safety is secure, those lower levels, Maslow's lower levels, right? Then I think if we can come together and understand that what's good for my Spanish brother, what's good for my white brother, what's good for my Black brother, you know, what's good for my Muslims, my Christians, and everybody, if we can all share in this, and of course we go back to the socialism concept, right? But if we can all share in this stuff, we understand that concept that you're talking about, well, I can live off of this. I don't need it all at the same time, which is actually what happened to Robinhood this week. And they had to stop selling GameStop. It was coming for their money. But so it's interesting, but you're absolutely right. If we can understand, look at there. Wait.
I did it.
The things are good by you, huh?
Yeah. So if we can understand that as humans, our need to take care of other humans and treat them humanely, and you know, we spend so much money on the deterrence of war by preparing for war, right? What if we did, and we spend more money than like the next at least 10 nations combined. More national defense and stuff, and it's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy how much money we spend on that kind of stuff. But it's because of what our priorities are, right? Our priorities are that we're going to be national police and we're going to be overlords of the world and stuff like that. So we need all this money to be everywhere and do everything.
But you know what kills me, Jermaine? I drive through downtown Charlotte. If you go down North Tryon Street right now, when you get to downtown and you hang a left onto 11th Street, there is literally a tent city. Hundreds of tents of homeless people lining the highway of North Tryon Street and 277. Wow. I've never in my life seen that many tents. And all it is homeless folks are out of the shelters because of COVID. So they've given them these tents. And it's the craziest sight to see because at night they're all zipped up. They have propane in there trying to keep warm, which is fire hazards and stuff like that. There are no bathrooms out there. So they're just doing whatever, whenever and wherever.
Wait, time out. You're telling me this is a state-sponsored, city-sponsored tent city?
Yeah.
In Charlotte? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
COVID. And it's funny because actually I didn't realize I'd seen the news stories and stuff, and I hadn't really been paying attention, to be honest with you. I was doing some other stuff like napping.
When I saw it, it broke my heart.
Some of Netflix, my first world problems. Yeah, so I've seen the tents out there, and so yeah, it makes sense now why they're out there. Because I was actually thinking to myself, where'd they get? Because it's a nice tent. It's like, where'd they get that tent from?
They're giving it to them.
Yeah.
They're handing them tents. Brad, I should go down and just take. You would be.
Wow.
It would blow your mind. I'm like, is this America?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's America. Come out here. Come out to California.
Oh yeah, San Francisco.
Southern California.
Yeah. I know. I know.
Come
Trump has made clear that San Francisco is a hellhole of homelessness. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That
No, Southern California, downtown LA, and it's all races.
Yeah.
It's not no certain race.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, no.
That's how it is too. But
All
it's so unsanitary. And the actual guy that owns the land keeps going to the city, and he's like, "You got to get these people off of here because I can't sell this."
Right.
Because
Right.
they're bringing the property value down. Nobody wants to buy it because there's going to be a whole lot of cleanup they're going to have to do because there are no porta johns over there.
Right.
So
Right.
again, I think these are part of the conversations, those tough conversations we got to have that are going to make us uncomfortable, even as liberals.
Yeah.
So eventually, we've got to talk about immigration and what we do about immigration.
Right.
Right.
You know, we all said how horrible Trump is, and we all know that policy was not good. We know that. We know it came from Stephen Miller, and Stephen Miller is the devil. In human form, he is the devil. We know that. We've got to figure out what do we do with it. We can't have open borders.
No, we can't. We can't. But I think
right.
But we've always had open borders. What you think Lady Liberty is for?
Well, no.
Holding up her torch to show the light. When all those people came in, they were illegal.
Right. So I can come. I'm going to come move into your house tomorrow.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying now all of a sudden it depends on which border.
Right.
But look at all these people who your immigrants came.
And who's coming in. Right.
Yeah, well, it's hard to separate America, right? You know, so I keep going back and say, you know, history. You know, it's hard when we say systemic racism and stuff. It's hard to have anything born out of the way America was grown and not have some hints of racism to it. But I believe that's why DACA was such an important program, because what we recognized was that, okay, let's say that mom and dad should have done it the right way. What about the kids?
Exactly.
You know, do we have a path forward for them, because they didn't ask to be here?
Exactly.
You know, I was willing my plans before my mama let me do what I wanted to do, and I was paying bills and stuff. So I know that if somebody got dragged across the border, that's just what happened. They got dragged across the border and stuff.
Right.
Exactly.
DACA. And so when the last administration rolled that back and stuff, that was a problem. Obviously, the separating the children at the border as a deterrent, that was a problem too. So what do we do for our immigration policies? We have open conversations about it. We enforce our laws and stuff. You know, instead of paying so much for our police departments who don't do anything but beat niggas, how about
and mace 9-year-olds?
And mace 9-year-olds, man. If you got to justify, like you got to justify.
There's no
why
justification. Everybody should be gone.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't care what you say she did. You should be gone.
Well, actually, if you
look at them, you can't handle a 9-year-old.
Well, I got 11 and 10. I got 11, 10-year-old, and I'm not saying I make, but
well, Jermaine, they as tall as I am. You got to do a little bit more with them.
They are tall.
Brad, they're 11 and 10, and they almost as tall as I am.
Oh wow!
You got to do a little something extra.
Man. And you got to feed them for the next 10 years, right?
Man.
Well, that little extra is Grandma Ann. Just call Grandma Ann.
That little extra is some WWE moves.
But you know, we can have more. We can have a conversation about what we do with our extra coin, right? And we can. Why don't we have more judges, immigration judges and stuff? We know we know there's a need for it and stuff.
Crisis.
Right.
Why don't we have more? Why don't we have more lawyers and stuff that are looking at these asylum cases and stuff, and not just to the point that you're throwing people out, but given the process. You know, a lot of people say, well, yeah, you allow these people in, and then they blend in and they don't show back up. Well, they don't show back up because there's a lack of trust in the process and stuff. If there was a fair process out there and stuff, and they knew that they could be heard, and there wasn't just an automatic, well, if I go back there, they're just going to throw me out. Because there are a lot of people, and that's the thing, you know, we sit there and talk about the evils of the world and stuff, and when somebody comes like, yeah, I was just there, well, you need to go back because I'm afraid that you're going to take a job that I would never take from me.
You're right. Exactly. And I'll say to these people who's crying illegal immigrants, well, go have a conversation with your grandparents and great grandparents and all of them, and let them talk about illegal immigration. Because how did any of us get to be where we are in the United States of America?
Well, we got shipped here.
We all have a story. We all have a story.
Exactly.
And Kim, that's the difference between entitlement and compassion. Some people think that they, just because they're here, well, I'm here, we supposed to be here. They not supposed to be here. How about have a little bit of compassion for people that, like Jermaine said, are here through no fault of their own? How about have some compassion for people that you keep saying that America is the best country, so you're acknowledging that there's some pretty crappy countries out there that may have a bunch of gangs and drugs.
I believe they're shithole countries.
Shithole countries that people are running from because they would do anything to make sure that their kids have a better life. What parent could not understand another parent wanting to make sure that their kids have a better life and not always worrying about, are the kids going to get taken, put in slave trades, prostitution, husbands get killed and everything. Well, then they say, well, they still got to do it the right way. I agree with that.
Let's appeal to the conservative Christians. Why did the Christians come here? It's because they were escaping persecution from their countries, right? When the first Christians showed up, weren't they escaping persecution?
Yep.
So now you conservative Christians, so what? I mean, what?
I've been lied to so much about American history. I think
a lot of them
they were assholes and they owed people money. I'm almost certain after being lied to about everything else, we're being prosecuted. I was like, you owe somebody named Nick.
Yeah. You told a better story to make it look good. That's what you did.
They didn't like the way I prayed.
Go get on that boat called the Mayflower or whatever.
Again,
you know what I mean? The more I think about it, that whole thing about they didn't like the way I prayed. I was like,
you might be onto something because they do tell a lot of lies. So how do we know that one wasn't a lie too?
How you gonna be mad at somebody for having Christian values and wanting to love their neighbor? Who have you ever seen thrown out of a club because they was in the corner praying?
Right.
Nah, you got to be throwing hands and get thrown out.
Yeah. The other day, one of the hosts on Fox asked the question, were they coming over with coyotes and these other people who would leave their children to go to a foreign nation, to cross a border, to go into you know what? People who feel like my life is nothing.
Right.
But I want better for my kids. So you go and make a better way. And once you cross the border, it's going to be difficult, but you're going to make it, and you're far better off than I am.
Right.
Where I am. I mean, imagine having to make that decision to say you go without me to my kids.
Well, their immigrants didn't make that decision. Their grandparents, great-grandparents, and great-grandparents didn't make that decision. When they came, they brought their children. So now it's all about illegal immigration because it's a different race than yours.
The thing that they're always going to go back to, because if you're not talking about Mayflower immigrants,
right?
If you're not talking about colonial stuff, you're talking about 1800, 1900 stuff. They'll tell you, well, they did have Ellis Island, and they did file paperwork, and they did apply for citizenship, and they did things, and they did it, and that's when they say the right way. And so I do agree. Do we need to vet, especially in this global war on terrorism, right? Where we got a lot of people who want to do harm to us and stuff. And quite honestly, again, looking at America, I get it. I ain't saying it's right, but you ever see somebody get their ass whooped and you go, I know why they wanted to fight them. I ain't saying that violence is the answer, but I've seen them talk some shit before. So, you run that mountain, But the point is that we have some people out there who don't like us. We do need to have a conversation. Like I said, I think DACA gets back up and running again. That addresses the underage, the minors and stuff. But what about their parents and stuff?
Right.
How do we make sure that we keep them around too, and that and a lot of people ignore the fact that immigrants, illegal or otherwise, how much they jolt our economy, because they're not they're sending money home, but they're still buying food here. They're still living in a house now.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
But they're still jolting the economy and stuff, and they're still paying the sales tax and stuff like that. And a lot of them are still paying federal taxes.
You know what? A lot of them right now are getting COVID at a higher rate because they're working in meat packing plants. They're still working in farms. They're doing all this unsafe stuff that these people
Nebraska, in Iowa. You know what I mean? That's right. A lot of our food economy would absolutely collapse.
Yeah.
Right, because ain't none of them gonna go to that meat packing plant and wring some necks and chicken heads and stuff. They're not doing all of it.
Exactly.
I ain't going either.
Let's get back to Ellis Island. Let's get back to Ellis Island and how they were set up so they can file their paperwork and become legal citizens. Well, if Ellis Island could do it, why can't all these other borders do it as well?
Well, they could, but they don't want to. They don't want to.
Exactly. That's my point. That's my point. So stop talking about illegal immigrations when your grandparents, great-grands, and great-great, and all of them, because how do you end up being born in this country? Because of them. So
illegal immigration is well, Kim, pretty much simply put, it's the boogeyman for Republicans. It's their way of making sure that people show up for elections by saying, if you don't show up, this nation is going to start looking different. We're going to become the minority. And they know what happened to minorities when as they were in charge. They treated them like crap. So they don't want to become a minority because they fear that the same stuff they did to us, we're going to end up doing to them.
But you're conservative Christians. You're so conservative, and you're such Christians. And so what's wolves and sheep clothing?
They gave up being the party of family values when you elected a president to grab pussies. I'm sorry. You can never go back to saying that again and saying, well, we look the other way because of judges and this. I don't care what this man was able to deliver you. If Santa Claus told me he was a pedophile, I'd never celebrate Christmas again. You tell me that you're getting a lot of good gifts, but you're going to take the baggage that comes along with that, then yeah, you're being a hypocrite. But let's be clear though. And I'm going to start something. I know I got to get ready to end this, but church full of hypocrites. So that I don't think I just broadcasted a news alert, but all they basically doing is proving why a lot of people gave up on church to begin with, because they said it's just as many people that's effed up with problems inside the church than outside the church. I might trust more people outside the church than in the church, because at least the people outside the church know that they got a problem. The ones inside are delusional as hell.
Exactly. Exactly. There you go. There you go.
I had to get that on my chest. Thank you, Jesus.
Let it go. Let it go.
Oh, anyway, we could go through this all night, and we will continue to talk about this. That's what I like about this show. We're able to actually, just put it out there, keeping it real and everything else. And, I'm gonna have to maybe make a segment for Jermaine talking about why they hate niggers or something like that. I'm still working on the title, but I'll let you know, Jermaine.
You know who could stop immigration?
Who that?
You know who could stop illegal immigration in this country?
Obama?
China. China's the only one that can do it. China's the only one that can do it. China can go to Central and South America.
Yes.
right? And turn that into a thriving economy, a permanent underclass, but a thriving economy where they wouldn't want to come here because they don't have.
Yeah, but see, I think we're still missing the drug lords and the gangs and the security issue.
I'm just
now you give these people money and jobs. Right. Now they're gonna get robbed.
Right. They need their structure needs to be supported, and it's not.
Yeah. What's going to stop it is their governments are going to have to really take over a lot of these drug lords and stop working for them and being on their payroll. They have to reform their governments down there because they're overtaken by. I mean, they're on the payroll a lot of times, or a couple officers end up with their heads cut off and they ain't doing nothing. I'm good.
Exactly.
Yeah,
cash is king.
Yeah,
cash is king.
Cash is
like
exactly.
We know and they know what the real problems are.
Right.
We know and they know. And the only reason that you don't know is you don't care to know.
You don't want to know, yeah.
You want to know the truth, you can know it.
You can.
That's right.
All right, everybody, I'm gonna wrap it up. We really thank everybody for tuning in, listening. I know that a lot of times we say some stuff might be a little uncomfortable, but that's the point. It's not for always an agreement, but it's for understanding that we all have a point of view. It needs to be at least listened to, maybe not always agree with, but we have to learn how to agree to disagree. We have to learn how to talk to each other instead of talking past each other, making sure that everybody understands a point of view, making sure that everybody feels like they have something to contribute to conversations in the way that we feel. The reason that our politics doesn't work right now is that simple reason that they go to the same place day in and day out and they talk past each other, not to each other. Now, some of them actually are good friends and they hang out and they chill when they're not sitting there tearing each other a new one out on the floor, especially when the cameras are on so that we can see how divisive they really can be at times. But at the same time, we need to make sure that our politicians work for us. How does that happen? We will consistently say this. It starts with you, making sure that they understand that you will hold them accountable through elections, through all kinds of ways of making sure that the right candidate is going there for the right reason. Pushing your congressman for things like whether it's term limits or things like that, where they have to be accountable and not consistently running for the next election cycle as soon as the one that they're in just gets started, so that it gives them the chance to take time, pause, and actually make decisions that relate to their constituents and not their biggest donors. I'm Brian Parker. I'm going to thank my guests, Kim Morrow, Brad Cawthon, and Jermaine Parker. You can see us on YouTube. Subscribe, like, and share our YouTube channel. That way, when you see the bell, you get the notification that there's been something dropped, or if we're going live, we'll do that too. If you're interested in advertising on our channel, please email us at theparkermedia@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys next week. Y'all take care, be safe out there. And as always, wear a damn mask. See y'all later. Be good.
It's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking.